Hey, everybody, and welcome to Indie Game Business. I am your host, Jay Powell. Indy is out sick today. He's got a sick day, so it is just me flying solo and our guest, Shiz Suzuki, who is the head of partnerships and experimental marketing at AT&T. So, Shiz, welcome. We always start with, walk us through your career. And we usually say, and how you got into games, but I know you're not into games full time, so I'll tweak that and say how you decided to work in games with this promotion that we're going to talk about.
Yeah, no, Jay, thanks for having me today. It's exciting to be here. I'll start by saying that I do not have a traditional background in terms of a typical person who runs sponsorships for a large Fortune 10 company in the United States. So my career progression is a bit of an unusual one, which is actually quite exciting. I usually don't like the typical path, if you will. Even going back further before my career, I'm an immigrant from Japan. My dad and the family, he brought us over. It was $200 in a dream. Um, and so there's many a days that I have to pinch myself in regards to the work that I get to do and the things that I get to experience, and and the opportunities that we're able to create for others. And so, certainly there's a lot there that, in terms of kind of my passions and things that fire me up and get me up in the morning. There's a lot there in terms of, call it my, how I grew up and my family history. But I'm going to fast forward a little bit. I've been with AT&T for about 13 and a half years. This is my ninth role, actually. So I've done a lot of jobs and I've moved many times. And so I started with the company. I mean, it was I was managing a call center in San Ramon, California. That's up north. I'm in LA now, but up north. And I've done all different types of roles, everything from my second job, actually, one of my most memorable. I was a construction manager for copper splicers out in the field. So literally hard hat and boots and, getting in manholes, climbing poles, that sort of a thing. Had an incredible crew. Really taught me about the foundations of the business. I think most people will know that, we come from, call it the company lineage and history, of course, is in more traditional telecom and wireline phone services. And we've certainly been on quite the journey. And in my, you know, 13 and a half years, I've seen it transform and transition from being a telephone company to a wireless company to a, entertainment company, modern media company. We've been on quite the journey. And so similarly, my career has been, a similar, call it windy road path. And I've been able to do some really cool things. I did some work in pricing, mobility network operations. I've done chief of staff roles. I've supported our chairman and CEO in events, PR, etc. Workforce transformation projects, and more recently, I took this role on about 3 years ago to head up all of the sponsorships and experiential marketing across the company. And like I mentioned before, I'm not your traditional person. I don't have a sports background per se. I wasn't a collegiate athlete. Although I watched some sports growing up, we weren't, again, immigrant family. My parents worked all the time. We couldn't afford cable. We didn't watch a lot of sports either. But certainly it's been an exciting journey, and and I think the reason why, and we can touch on this later a little bit more, but I think you put untraditional people in traditional roles if you want to see changes, if you want to make changes. So that's what I'm here to do.
I think your mic may have moved there.
Oh no.
You got a little
Okay,
bit
hold on.
softer at the end.
Okay, can you still hear me?
Oh yeah, we're good. Now
Oh,
we're
okay. Okay.
So, all right, my first question is exactly what is experimental marketing?
Yeah, it's actually experiential marketing.
Oh, there we go. That makes a
Yeah,
whole lot more
although
sense.
there's a lot of experimental
Oh,
that takes place too, so you're not too far. Yeah, experiential marketing is really, when you think about sponsorships, it's call it there's it's one of the levers of things that you could do within a marketing mix. And so obviously a lot of people think of things like TV advertising or billboards and what have you. For us, it's this opportunity and an ability to take, call it, brands and other things that people are passionate about, right? So obviously in this case, there's gaming and esports properties that we support, like Cloud9, ESL, etc. And then certainly even in the stick and ball sports space, which where we, that's where we originally kind of started for sponsorships, whether that be things like the NBA, the WNBA, NHL teams, AT&T Stadium, the Dallas Cowboys. There's kind of a long list there. Also, athletes and talent can also fall into that space as well. And basically, when we think about what's important in marketing, and especially for a company as old as ours, I mean, we're a 140 plus year old brand. There's a lot there in regards to the fact that customers know who we are when they see the globe, or when they see AT&T, they know who we are. But there is more there that we want to do in terms of connecting with our customer base. That's the challenge at hand for us. And that's where sponsorships and experiential marketing comes in, and that experimental part as well. And it's connecting with our customers through the things that they're really passionate about. So, as an example, I'll use one of our award-winning experiences. There's something called Pose with the Pros that we installed at AT&T Stadium with the Dallas Cowboys last season, and this is call it volumetrically captured content of 8 or so Dallas Cowboys athletes, and that is all put into this. Call it it's selfie stand, I guess, for the easiest way to describe it. And then what you do is you go and you can pick the athletes you want to take a photo of, but it's not just like, hey, pick a couple players and you take a picture with them. The experience of like the athletes kind of jumping out of the screen and kind of, huddling around you, etc. Like there's a lot more definition to that content. It's a lot richer. All that is powered by 5G that's available in stadium. And so for us, the beauty of it is that we're able to tell a technology story, but through the lens of things that people are really passionate about. I always joke that if you stuck a Pose with the Pros stand, somewhere in a retail store somewhere, and you can come pose with me, the only person who'll show up is my mom. So, that's the power of, when you partner with somebody, call it, IP and brands that are really powerful, right? That's the things that you're able to really drive.
We always tell everyone that when you're getting your game tested and getting feedback on your games, that feedback from your friends and your parents don't count, because your mom's always going to tell you that you're a great singer. That doesn't count. You've got to get like real feedback in here
That's
somewhere.
right. Yeah,
So,
that's it.
I mean, AT&T's been doing esports for 3 years now. So
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, aside from the fact that it started to grow, and that's one of the things, it's like people don't realize how long esports have been around and how popular it's been for many, many years. What got AT&T to originally start looking at esports as another medium, on the level with the stick and ball sports?
Yeah, that's a great question. For us, when I came into the picture, it was looking across our portfolio and really seeing, are we connecting with our customer base of today and customer base of tomorrow? And so, obviously, in the world of sponsorships and relationships of this nature, these are generally multi-year deals. You've got a bit of a longer consideration set in terms of, who the audience is. And for us, esports and gaming was an area that was an obvious for us. Our products and services are endemic to the space, right? Whether that be the fiber products, broadband, 5G, of course, is kind of the new conversation that we're having here. But if you think about the importance of a network, high speed, low latency, and that is something that is core to the gaming space. And so, for us, it was connecting in with this audience. Now, I guess the more difficult thing to do, and I think the biggest challenge that companies and brands have, is getting into the space and certainly, selecting the right partners, etc. That by itself is a challenge, certainly. But I think the biggest challenge is how do you and what is your ethos around truly connecting with the fan base. There's different ways that you can execute sponsorships. Some people call it spots and dots. You put up signs and what have you, or you have your logo on somewhere on digitally somewhere. But it really has to every company has to figure out what makes you unique, what makes you stand out, and this is an audience base that is more particular, and they certainly have earned that. And so it's been a really fun and unique challenge for us in this space. But it's for us, our ethos has always been about elevating the space, however and whichever we can. So whether that be through products and services, or whether it be through events or other types of activations or things that we might support and get into. And so it has never been about, hey, let's stick a sign up and walk away. It's really been about, hey, listen, let's do a lot of research in this industry, in this fan base. Let's lean in on people that are really smart and know this space a lot better than we do. So we've done a lot of listening, a lot of learning, a lot of continual learning, because things are always changing in this industry. And then it's about how do we best then give back to and elevate things for the athletes, the players, the gamers, the fan base, the community.
Yeah, particular is a very good word about how gamers are. That's a
Particular.
key word.
It is. I'm trying not to say the dirty A word. I know.
No, trust me, there's a lot of dirty words that get shared on this show, so it's
Yeah.
perfectly fine. It is interesting, especially since you've been at AT&T as long as you have, because we look at even just the last 10 years since mobile games became a thing, and your history goes back before mobile phones were even a thing. God forbid putting a game on them and doing something along those lines. So um, it's interesting how the industry's grown, and that's always the cool part for me is talking about how things have all changed since we've been doing this forever.
Yeah.
All right, so we know, those of us who are in the industry realize that there's a big hole when it comes to women in games and minorities in games, and all sorts of different groups that are represented in society but aren't very well represented in game development or even games sometimes. So I'm sure that AT&T has this whole big statistics and research group. What are the different stats that you came across and the different indicators that, okay, hey, we need to do something like this, when y'all started planning the Unlock Games competition?
Yeah. So gender equality has been an area that has been near and dear to our hearts. I mean, we've been working on this for several years now in different places of the business from a marketing angle. So whether that be for making sure that our advertising is, representing women and girls, portraying them accurately, etc., and supporting industry organizations like the Association of National Advertisers with See Her in Sports. And so for us, it was kind of a natural connection when we came across this one stat that was certainly eye-opening for us, and it was around the fact that about half of gaming fans are women and girls, but but it's less than a quarter of developers are women and girls. And so for us, you know, when you start to think about the fact that having I'll put it in corporate terms, which would be if having a diverse workforce always helps you create products and services that are much more representative of your overall customer base. So if we put it in that regard, it's the same thing, is that there is such a great opportunity here to help elevate and to bring, give opportunities to potentially audiences and groups that have traditionally been underrepresented in this space. And so for us, it was, what can we do about it, right? Again, going back to our ethos of what we love doing in this space, which is all about elevating and trying to improve the space where we can with the things, with our products and services or things that we have access to. So we started working on this program earlier this year, and it was, let's give somebody an incredible opportunity. Let's give, this is about, let's create something that might give somebody a life-changing experience. We've done, actually, in the film and entertainment space, we've actually had a program for the last 3 years. It's called Untold Stories. So there's a little bit of a thematic there of starting with an right? Untold Stories, Unlock Games. And this has always been about the fact that you start from a place of underrepresentation. What is it that we can do to help support it? How do we give underrepresented voices not only an opportunity, but it is also about giving them a platform and to tell their stories. So, tell their stories for others to be able to see them, to be able to know that it is absolutely possible for, for people like them. And and for the program itself, it's certainly, there's a monetary prize because financials always help support bringing things to life, but more than that, we've put a lot of emphasis around call it the mentorship, the access to memberships, the platform, the storytelling, um, the opportunity, in this case, Unlock Games, to co-create something with us at Dreamhack next year, a custom space where you can really feature the experience of and tell the story of your game, and hopefully highlight it there. So for us, it's really been about using the power of AT&T and what we can bring to the table to really authentically help support someone and elevate the space all at the same time.
So, I mean, let's get, we've talked about why you're
Yeah.
doing this. We haven't even talked about what it actually is. This is my world because we get so, in depth with everything. And I'm like,
Yes.
oh, wait, there's a competition. So tell us about the Unlocked competition, and I'll put the website on here, but what are we actually talking about today?
Yes. I'm getting too excited, Jay. I'm getting ahead of myself.
I do it all the time.
AT&T Unlock Games. It's the first of its kind gaming showcase and live competition. We are inviting women, people who identify as women developers, to come and submit their beta games. So we're currently in an open call timeframe right now, and I believe that goes through the end of October, October 26th. And from there, what we will do is we have a team of 6 great end bosses. So, Jay, thank you for participating. It's great to have industry experts like yourself on the crew. And we'll have finalists that are selected at the beginning of November. And then we will have a final pitch session that will take place streamed on Twitch December the 2nd. So hopefully everybody will tune in, where one person will be, or one team will be selected. And also we will be doing a fan favorite. So we'll be able to have fans and others that are supporting them and watching, the contest, be able to weigh in and to be able to select the fan favorite as well. So we've got kind of 2 rounds of prizes there. So yeah, that's in a nutshell.
So thanks for the invite to have me do this. I love doing this, and everyone knows I love judging people and games. So that's always good too. But it's going to be Renee Gittins who's the head of the IGDA. Renee's been on the show. Gordon Bellamy, Gordon's done a whole lot of stuff. Gordon is ridiculously smart. And he is on the forefront of all this. I mean, I know Gordon going back to when he was at THQ. Lisette Teatree Montgomery is the art director over at, where is she at now? I want to say it's Naughty Dog or somebody. Anyway,
yeah.
Lisette's been in the industry for 18, 20 years. Susan O'Connor, who's a very well awarded narrative designer, she's going to be one of the and then wow, there's my ugly mug on the site right there, and then me. So when all these submissions start coming in, what are they going to be actually judged against? I mean, is it what stage do they need to put them in? I mean, what are we as the bosses and the judges going to be looking for?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there are very specific defined criteria, so things like audio, the creative design, etc. But kind of like what I said earlier, is in regards to we as AT&T don't purport to know all the details of what is going to make a game title successful, which is why we're leaning in on experts like yourself and bringing you in to help us with that. So I'm going to turn this question back on you a little bit, Jay. I know we have the outline criteria, but I guess what do you look for? Like, what are the things that you'll be looking for in this?
That's what I love about doing this, and that's why I love that we've got such a variation in the judges, because what I look for is going to always be skewed by what I do, and that's the business of the games. If the game is gorgeous and fantastic, but at the same time it doesn't really offer anything new to the genre, you can have a good game, but is it really going to be that groundbreaking? That's what I always look at, and the closer we can get to something that's finished is obviously going to be better. But for those of you out there who have stuff that's early stage, submit it absolutely, and let us take a look at it. Worst case scenario, you get feedback on your game, and that's not really ever bad. So it's my wager is the stuff that is going to go all the way is going to be games that are past their midway point in development at this point in time. They're easier to look at, easier to judge. And I did forget to mention, we're going to be hosted on the live event by Bean Ann's and Munition from
You got
from
it.
Twitch.
Yeah.
So we're going to have real Twitch streamers, not me, doing this. So that'll be nice. And then so let's go through what they actually win, because this is better than a typical just online game. You're going to win stuff and exposure and
Yes.
so what do you win? What are the prizes?
Yep. So cash prize, $50,000, because that always helps. But it's always more than just about the money, right? It is support. It is obviously the feedback that they're going to receive from the end bosses throughout that process. That's one. The overall, call it storytelling and platform. We want to give these teams and these ladies that audience, and to help them grow their audience, whether they either win the program or not. It's also memberships to some of the actual game developing organizations, which again, right, this is about network. This is about receiving holistic support to bring whether it be this game or another game successfully to market. And then it is about also an opportunity to be at Dreamhack next year. Obviously COVID, we'll see which Dreamhack it becomes, but we would love to co-create a space that is dreamed up by the winner, that is fully about the experience of the game, basically basically a place where we can invite fans and others to come and experience this, so that way we can best showcase the game and the work and the and the storyline of the developers as well. So it's meant to be a very holistic support award mechanism, Jay. It's not just about the it's more than the cash prize.
It is, and the thing is, the the beauty of Dreamhack being involved, and for those of you who aren't as familiar with Dreamhack, Dreamhack is more closely tuned to a PAX type event than it is to a GDC or the events that I go to, the business events. So if AT&T is setting you up with an area booth and all that stuff, you're not only going to get exposure to publishers and distributors, you're going to get a lot of exposure directly to fans. And
Yes.
that is absolutely key. And yeah, $50,000 does not hurt as
Yeah.
well. So I will say, just to be clear, because we've got audience all the way around the world,
Sure.
you do have to be. This is U.S. only.
This
So
is in the United States.
yep.
Correct. Yep.
So sorry, all my friends in Europe and in Asia and in South America. It is this one. This one is just for the U.S. side of the world. So what are some of the things that AT&T is hoping to get out of this? Because I mean, the
Mhm.
sponsorships on these types of events are ironically fairly new. I mean, there aren't a lot of this type of thing that comes from people and companies that we don't consider intrinsically entrenched in
Sure.
games.
Yeah. I mean, I would say this is all about, I mean, the work that we do in esports and gaming, certainly, right? However, innately, we're able to tell our products and services. Actually, I forgot to mention that as part of the prize, there is obviously a whole setup of products and services that that are from AT&T as well. But so those storylines, certainly, right, and how our products and services can help power and help elevate somebody getting started. But it is, at the end of the day, it is about our holistic support of the gaming space. So it's not necessarily about, um let me start over. I need another cup of coffee, Jay.
God, that's what I
No.
love. It's like when I can flummox the people that do this professionally. It's like that's
All right, 1 point for Jay. No, no. I mean, this is all about, at the end of the day, right? I keep going back to our ethos of what we're doing in the esports and gaming space, and so when we think about elevating the space, some of that is, it can come in the form of, call it, sponsoring and partnering in with teams like Cloud9, but at its most, call it, foundational level, it would be, then, what do we do with Cloud9 in a way that really taps into that fan base? How do we, elevate for the community of gaming? And how do we bring that to life in some really unique way to help celebrate that, help to bring that, how to enrich that community? And so, similarly, in this particular program of AT&T Unlock Games, it is that in the long run, what we're hoping to achieve here is to be able to bring a different type of gaming, gaming genre, gaming idea, gaming philosophy to the table that maybe has not been seen before. And that type of, to be able to bring something that is new, that is fresh, that is, that ultimately also elevates, the community for gamers as well. Um, and sometimes it's those new genres that also might open up, call it, fan bases, right? So if there are other people maybe who had not been fans of gaming before, because maybe there wasn't something that resonated with them, or made them, maybe resonated perhaps this could be that game that gets more people excited about gaming and that spirit of competition, etc., to help expand, the industry as well. So it's a bit more of a, it's not like an immediate, hey, we're going to do this and we want to go sell more cell phones, right? I want to make sure that is really clear, that this is not what it's about. This is truly is about, we want to have impact in this space. And and especially from a gender equality standpoint, I make a lot of references to stick and ball sports, because that's, also an area, frankly, where, women in sports are, that statistically just are disadvantaged. And for us, it's about, what can we do as a company? What are the things that we can affect change on? What are the investments that we can make to help move this wheel? I always think about, women in, call it sports gaming, etc. Solving that problem is not an easy solve, right? There's no silver bullet. It's more of this flywheel effect, because any sort of value chain, whether that be in gaming or in sports, is complex, right? There's sponsors, certainly, and brands like us who invest, and also as advertisers we invest. But then you think about the folks that are the broadcasters as well, right? And broadcasters need to have demand to be able to put more, call it, women's sports on air and on broadcast. And so there's a bit of a flywheel effect. It's not an easy answer. For us, there's a lot of decisions and choices that we can make, and we certainly challenge, call it, others in the industry to do the same, because we can't do it alone. For example, I'll just throw out there the WNBA, which is an area we're really passionate about them. We're the first non-apparel brand to be on all 12 jerseys. We were certainly big with them this season, as they went into the women's bubble, out in Florida.
The wobble.
And the wobble, they trademarked that, yeah.
Nice.
And so, and so for us, it was when they were doing their draft. So they were the first uh, league to do their draft after we went into COVID, and their commissioner, Kathy Engelbert, that they were very courageous to do so. I know NFL gets a lot of credit for it, but NFL actually came a week after the WNBA did. And ESPN, the broadcaster, they were originally going to put the draft on ESPN2. And we were like, wait a sec, right? Like, what else is going to be airing on ESPN on Friday night? So we made a few calls and we're like, listen. And of course, they were like, well, it's about ratings. It's about, got it. There's, again, right, this is that flywheel effect. So we said, well, listen, put it on ESPN and we'll put our money where our mouth is. And they did. They put it on ESPN. The ratings were off the charts. And guess what? We certainly increased our level of investment to show that we're serious about this.
That is, and it's one of those things that, a big corporation like AT&T is always going to get a certain number of people that are like, oh, well, you're just coming into this industry because it's hot and you want to get new stuff. Yes, at the end of the day, that's part of it. But the bigger thing is to get a lot of this stuff moved and changed. We can do grassroots operations all day long inside the industry. But when someone comes in, with a big corporate sponsorship and says, look, here's the money, we're going to do this, people start paying attention. And it is, I've watched women's sports alongside men's sports for years. I went to the University of North Carolina, and when I was there, our women's soccer team was basically the Olympic team, and the men's soccer team was a joke. And now the men's soccer team has caught up. But there are arguments that people will make about how it's not fair for stick and balls, and I'll leave that to doctors and whatever. But when it comes to video games,
right,
it's bullshit. Let me say, because everybody's sitting behind a keyboard and a mouse, and it was one of the things that, and I'll call Activision out on this. This is one of the things that pissed me off about the Overwatch League initially, is because they didn't have any women, and their excuse was, well, it would create an uncomfortable environment if we had women staying in the same houses as men. And I'm like, I'm sorry, colleges do
Right,
this, apartments do
right,
this.
right.
It's just shit. And so
Yes.
the fact that you all are doing this, it is good. It is. And so you've been working with the 2K series of games, and then the bigger esports teams like Cloud9.
Yeah.
The indie market is a completely different world. I mean,
Yeah.
how are you approaching it differently than you have with some of the other stuff that you all have done?
I think about it more in the case of similarities, which is really around the community. It's about the gaming community. And so if it's about, about celebrating it, it's about bringing them, bringing the community more benefits, more opportunities, so I think for us that's really the approach. And again, I think it's about, you know, as a brand and a company, you don't often hear people call it in my role within sponsorships to actually say this, but I think it's really important to have the humility to know what you know, and also the realist to know what you don't know, which is why, again, like, you lean in on people that are much more experts in the space to help you. Um, to help guide you, to help drive you in the right way, so that way you can stay organic and authentic to that fan base and that community. So I think for us, the approach actually is in a lot of ways very similar, because it's about keeping an eye open to the community. It's about wanting to make sure that that we're doing this in the right way, and supporting. And so even in the development of the AT&T Unlock Games program, every step of that, whether that be the award package, whether it be the process, whether it be even the marketing of it, and the places that we've gone to help promote the program. I mean, all of that has been from the support of people, frankly, like you, Jay, that are in the space, that can help direct us and guide us in the right way, and making sure that we're elevating the community.
I think one of the things that's always very key, and this doesn't, this applies to women and minorities, and all the different kinds of folks that are in the industry.
Yeah.
When you work at these big companies, you can easily get pigeonholed into roles. The same way that an artist at an indie team, maybe doing the 3D modeling, the rigging, the texturing, all of this stuff. But when they're working on, something for like the 2K series, they're going to be very, very focused. And
Yeah.
to be able to highlight women, especially in indie games,
Yeah.
those are the folks that are going out, and you have to do so much more stuff. And everybody that listens to the show knows it's like indie games are where we get the real innovation. That it doesn't come from EA or someone else. They just had the I laughed because it was IGN just reviewed the latest FIFA game on Switch, and the review started with, "We cut and pasted our 2020 review of the last version of the game for this review because EA cut and
Wow.
pasted the game and put a new year on it." It's like, oh, damn.
Wow.
And it is,
Right.
and that's why we absolutely love to see this stuff. So to put you further on the spot, because we get this all the time, do you consider yourself a gamer, and what do you play?
Um, I consider myself a gaming fan. I grew up in the age of NES. I'm gonna just date myself now, but man,
you're you're dating yourself with somebody that's right there with you, so you're good.
my most my most prized possession back then was my gold Legend of Zelda cartridge. I mean, you couldn't get me away from that game, and I think I've played a couple bouts of that in the more recent years, to relive those days. I would say now, I actually play Animal Crossing since COVID hit. Not to sound
Yes.
cliche, but it has been an incredible, like, escape from the chaos of the world, call it, right? And here's another, kind of more of a personal insight is, my sister, so I have a younger sister, she's 4 years younger, she has 2 kids, lives up, in the Bay Area, and so, she's busy with her life, right? And, just like all families are, right? She gets busy with her life, I get busy with mine. And we've actually used Animal Crossing as a way to be able to rebond again in a place where nobody can bother us, right? The kids aren't bothering her, my husband's not bothering me, right? Like, it's just the 2 of us, and we get to visit each other, and, it's been really a joy, to be able to, you've got escape moments as well as, so anyways, this is all to say, I appreciate the space. I don't know if I could call myself exactly a gamer, but I
But you
certainly I
are. That's exactly why we asked that question, because you are. And I'll talk to folks, and I'm like, "So,
yeah.
are you a gamer?" They're like, "Oh, no, 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 no. I'm not a gamer." I was like, "Let me see your phone, because let's see, you've got Candy Crush on here, and
Uh,
whatever else is on there." I was like, "You are a
yeah,
gamer." And so when you were talking about how women are actually the majority of players of games,
yeah,
it's because of that. And so
right.
that that gateway that you spoke about earlier, Animal Crossing is the perfect example. So one, that game could not have hit at a better time. I mean,
My
we
goodness.
have 2 copies of it in this house, and
Oh,
I have gotten away from it long enough now that I'm almost ashamed to go back and face my Islanders, because
oh, right.
I'm sure it's turned
They will
into,
shame you. The
yeah, like
cockroaches in your house. Yes.
Lord of the Flies on my island at this point. But that is exactly the point, because my wife has been playing Animal Crossing. She's stuck with it. She has a beautiful island, but she has gotten to the point that it's like, okay, there's no new content. It's not a new month or
Yeah.
whatever. And what did she do? She immediately hit the eShop and started finding games that, she would
Yes.
play. And so it is always you bring new people, and whether, we bring AT&T customers who don't consider themselves gamers into the industry, or we open up a whole lot of new development studios to what you all are doing. It is that introduction that matters, because
Right.
they start playing Animal Crossing, and then it's like, oh, well,
And
here's
it's that
Stardew
next
Valley.
thing, right?
And if you haven't played Stardew Valley, highly recommend that one.
Okay.
It's a it's another one that will suck your life, and you can
Oh,
play it with your sister because it's got
love
co-op.
it.
So
Love
it
that.
it is, and these are the types of experiences that really define the industry, and especially like this. It's I've got a 9-year old. If he had been locked down in a pandemic without and he plays with his friends, everything from
Yeah.
Fortnite to Roblox to Minecraft,
Mhm.
but that's where he's getting his social
Right.
experience right now. And
Yeah.
so we are always about this. You started with Animal Crossing, soon you'll be cursing on LOL. And that, yeah, when you get to League of Legends, that's when you need to call us Shiz. The
Okay.
but I mean, the more that we can not only introduce new people to the industry, but
Absolutely.
also knocks down some of those stereotypes that, okay, if you're a gamer, you're actually an 18 to 24-year-old male, and no
Right.
one outside of that. It's like, it's not true. It's like there
It's
are
not true.
literally more women playing games than there are men playing games right now.
That's right. And we've got to create things that appeal to that audience, right? On the sports side, like there's this horrible term. It's called pink it and shrink it. So
That's not just sports. That's like literally any kind of retail at this point.
there
Yeah.
you go, right? And
Hmm.
like just I'm like, well, there you go, right? You've got a group of people that is not representative of your customer base making stuff and like, it's just horrible. What makes somebody think that all women want are a smaller version of something that the men already have, like a smaller jersey and different pink or
Hmm.
you know what I really hate are like golf club I went to go get my golf clubs regripped. All it came in was pink. Anything undersized was pink. I'm like, really? Like, seriously?
Oh my God.
You don't think that
It,
there's some other color that women want?
it is, and it's absolutely infuriating. And part of the problem, I mean, it's like what you were saying, solving these stereotypes in the industry is not a quick solution. It takes, and
No.
that's exactly what it takes. Whether it's the Me Too movement that we saw in games earlier
Yeah.
this year, or anything else, until we start absolutely looking at
Yeah.
getting women in all these different roles and getting exposure for the ones that are doing fantastic jobs,
Yeah.
it is going to continue to be this, just shit,
Completely
excuse.
agree. Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, I consider myself. I know I mentioned this earlier when I was telling you my mini biography really quickly, but I mean, I consider myself very fortunate, right? And for a company like AT&T to take a chance on me, frankly, right? Like I said, it's one of the largest sponsorships portfolios out there in the United States today. I had zero experience. And I certainly don't represent your typical person that would be leading sponsorships. But again, I think this is a challenge for other companies and brands that are trying to make hiring decisions for decision maker roles. I mean, for me, I've since promoted women into my ranks. I've hired women of color. I want to make sure that my team is representative of our customer base, which is representative of the portfolio that we're managing, et cetera. And so, there's a lot to be said there about these decisions that we can make throughout and in challenging each other, right? So, I'm one of the fortunate ones. For me, it's about making sure that I continue to give back. I continue to push those envelopes where I can. Um, there's this is an inspirational story I shared with my team. I, I don't, have you ever run a marathon for?
You met me. I I've run 5Ks, and I've
Yeah.
done one of the mud run type
Oh,
things,
that's
but
badass. I love it. That's
no, I
awesome.
was like one of the last ones across the line because I was stupid enough to sign up for the August event in Charlotte, and it was like
Oh my gosh,
80,
in
90
the
degrees.
heat, in the mud.
That the mud was the best part,
Wow.
but no,
Is that
I have
yeah,
never run a
yeah.
marathon.
Well, so marathon running for women is something like these days, right? We kind of take that for granted, right? That there's events all over the world. But I was really surprised. I shared this story with my team because it really proved the point of like it only takes one person, it only takes um, you know one brand, one company. So back in 1967, Boston Marathon. So back in the day, which is like not too far, back, it was believed to be that women could not run a marathon because our uteri would fall out, which that's crazy, right? So Catherine Switzer,
It's like,
um, yeah,
who came up with that idea? I mean, did that happen somewhere? And they
I
were like,
don't
"This is going
know.
to be
I
a
don't know.
thing." Oh my
So
god!
So Catherine Switzer signed up for the Boston Marathon, but she didn't use her first name. She actually just used her initial K, Switzer, and she ran in the 1967 Boston Marathon. Was caught by the race director around mile 4. He jumped in, tried to pull her off the course, grab her number, and she had a group of men. These are the allies, right? These are the allies that we so desperately need in helping women achieve the equality. Even today, and they helped her escape the race director, and she was the first one to finish the race. And it took another 5 years before women were officially allowed to run in the Boston Marathon. Which, again, right, when you think about it today, it seems crazy. We almost take it for granted that women are allowed to run in the Boston Marathon. Well, Catherine continued her push for equality in the marathon running space. And she put together a proposal for a marathon race and for sponsors to join in. And she was told time and time again, it's not going to happen. People aren't going to be interested. Nobody's going to support it. And she took it to Avon. And Avon said, you know what? We're really excited. Like, this is something that I think we should go do. They had the first one. I think it was in like Atlanta. And then from there, it took off. They went all around the world and they were able to use that momentum. And obviously, Catherine and her passion and all of the other allies. And finally, it was 1984 when the women's marathon first came on the scene with the Olympics in LA. And so when I came across that, I was like, holy cow, right? And I use that story with my team to say it only takes one person. It only takes one person to have that gumption, the grit, the attitude, the perseverance to make change happen. And now we take it for granted. So all of this is to say, right? Like things like our program with Unlock Games or the other gender equality or other equality programs that we're doing. This is in hopes that one day I don't have any kids, but I have a 4-year-old niece who I adore. And I hope that one day she does not have the same challenges and the fights that certainly, that I've come across in my career, and that she can, look up to having all sorts of role models, and that she knows that she can be any athlete, broadcaster, CEO. She could be in the boardroom, out on the court or on the out in the field somewhere. She can whatever she puts her heart to. So, that's kind of the inspiration point of what certainly gets me and my team up every single day. So,
And like Prime Material just pointed out, no one's uterus has fallen out
nope,
in a marathon.
nope.
It's amazing. But and that's what, part of the time when you're looking at game development, one, as an industry, there's no standard on who we credit for games. There's constantly an issue of, people, men or women, who leave projects in the middle of development and then completely get their name erased, from the credit. But it's not like a typical sport that you watch on TV and you can say, hey, look, there's a woman on that team. You can do it with esports now. But
Yes.
the women that are behind the scenes actually creating these games, they don't get that opportunity.
Yeah,
Your name is in the credits,
that's
and
right.
and that's it. And if we're going to create, role models for people like your niece to look up to, we've got to do a better job of getting the names out there and saying, look, this is
Yeah,
who did it.
right.
It's not just a bunch of, old sweaty white guys in here making games anymore. And so I think we've always had competitions in the industry,
Yeah,
at GDC and, PAX and all the different events that are around, but they don't really get out there outside of the industry,
right.
and so it's one of those cases where it's like when somebody like AT&T comes in and says, look, we're going to do this and we're going to put real money into it and we're going to promote it outside of the places that y'all always promote stuff yourselves. That's those opportunities. Jeff Knightley's done a really good job with the Game Awards, which is
Mm,
like our Emmys. I'm not, we
right.
don't. If anything is close, it's that. Then that's awesome because there we get to see women are going on stage and accepting these, trophies, and so we
Yeah,
know that they are, and that's just an absolute big part of it. We've got to be able to get folks out there. We got a question from Karen. Can I submit a serious video game? I'm working with the Texas Children's Hospital on a game right now as the game developer for the world's first at-home hospital care video game that guides players through home care, VR, and AR. Karen, that sounds cool as hell.
that sounds amazing.
So can she submit a serious game?
A serious I mean, yes, absolutely. This sounds incredible. Karen, please submit.
This is the cool stuff that comes out of the
Yeah.
industry. I've been doing this for 20 some years now, and I'm at the point of my career where we do things like the show. It's like, I want to be able to say, we do cool games, but here's all this other stuff that we do as well. And that's a prime example of, somebody
Something
taking the things
completely
that we
different.
learn
Yeah.
in games and putting it out there and saying, look, we're going to, help people with healthcare.
Right.
All right, here we got another question from Zero Vapor over on Twitch. how can indie devs support other devs that belong to underrepresented groups?
So I would say help get the word out about the program, right? Because if there's more people that are aware of the program, hopefully we can get them to submit their games. And then I think the other part too is help tell these stories, the stories of the people that will be featured. Help expand their storytelling opportunity too by sharing on your platforms. And then there was one other thought that I had, but it's really about let's help each other. I mean, this is all about the micro and macro level impacts and things that we can go do together. And so, help us get the word out about the opportunity and about the stories that will come out of it.
One of the benefits of the pandemic for our industry, of the fact that everybody started playing video games, and a lot of companies have a lot more money to do stuff with now, is we have had a huge growth in digital events because we basically had to. And so all of those are fantastic opportunities for devs to help promote other developers. I'll plug our friend Liam Twose's Pitch Your Game initiative that they do at the first of every month. And so anything like that you can do as another developer to help promote somebody, it's not only good, but it is such that's the encouragement that we need. We aren't in an industry. That's one of the things I love about games is you don't get that competitive side of it like a lot of other industries do. It's like if I'm an indie developer and I'm making a platformer game, I don't look at everybody else as, oh my God, they're the competition. We have to beat them out, blah, blah.
Yeah.
You start sharing that and you start, getting out there. And there are a lot of resources out there specifically to help, support women in games and minorities in games. And Renee and the IGDA is a prime one like that. So, I mean, Zero Vapor, yeah, the best thing that you can do for a lot of these studios is just absolutely celebrate them, help promote them, get them out there and do all that kind of good stuff. Sorry, thirsty. All right. So I know that you got a hard stop coming up here. So we've only got a little bit of time left. If you've got a question about the competition, about what AT&T is doing, sneaking into our industry, sneaking in after 3 years, let us know. Pop it up. The growing up on Zelda.
Yeah.
Which is interesting that you brought that one up because that is the Breath of the Wild ended up being the first game that my son completely finished.
Wow.
And I grew up as a PC gamer, so I didn't play Zelda. I didn't play all of these. I didn't have it, and just like I was constantly on the PC. But those are the memories that you carry with you. He got to Ganon, he's like, "Are you going to help me?" I was like, "No. You have to beat Ganon." Right. on your own. That's the difference.
Well, I think that's so beautiful, right? Is now it's multi-generational families that are into gaming. Like when we were at that age, right, it was a little bit different because it's not like that existed for our parents. So it was a little bit harder for them to understand. But now you've got multi-generations of people that are really passionate, and so even at esports events too, we see multi-generational families going together like you would go to a baseball game, and I think that's just something that's amazing, and I think it'll just continue to grow, frankly.
It is awesome that because I hadn't really thought about it that way, but it is we're the first generation that is going to be raising gamers.
That's right.
As gamers,
right, right.
And so that is very much one of the cool parts of this. Part of all of the mess with this pandemic is, one, when I go to my son's school and people are like, "Hey, so what do you do?" It's like, we live in a university town, so we got professors, doctors. And I'm like, I help people make video games, and they're like, That's a job. Yeah, it
Live
is.
the dream every
And so,
day.
we would be out after school, and the parents were like, "Well, I don't let my child play Fortnite, and I don't let my child play Minecraft." And now, after 8 months of pandemic, all of those kids are on Minecraft
Oh,
and Among Us
completely.
and all of this stuff. And that's actually a whole nother point. I mean, you've got games like Among Us, and that's a story in and of itself of how that game just exploded overnight. But what you see is people recreating that in Fortnite's creative mode or in Roblox, and all of that just basically goes to fuel this passion in this industry and the creativity and bring new people in. And so that's awesome. I'm really glad that you are working in this area, and you're helping to promote this. And I am humbly honored that you all reached out to me to help, and I'm very happy to do it. So yeah, without any further, do you have any final thoughts, any final questions, anything else you want to plug while we're here?
No, I'd say, if you know anybody or if you are a game developer, you've got something you want to submit, do not hesitate, submit it. And I'd say, Jay, thank you for having me on. I know earlier you were talking about supporting and creating platforms for underrepresented folks. I mean, certainly having me on today, that is a pure representation of that. And you giving me this opportunity is incredible as well. So I appreciate you. Thanks for all that you do.
We don't have many real executives on this show, so that's the that's the minority that you're representing when it comes to our podcast. All right, so yeah, women, if you're the lead on a project, if you
Correct.
are an owner in the company, especially some of those teams I know out there who are all women, go to AT&T unlockgames.com. It's got all the stuff that you need to enter and the rules and all that kind of good stuff. And then, you can always, if you've got questions, hit me up. We're on our Discord at discord.gg/indiegamebusiness, and we can get you set there as well. This is the part of the show that I suck at because Indy always does the outro, and he's sick right now. So I will say, if you've got questions, Google up AT&T Unlock Challenge or Google up Indie Game Business. We'll put you in the right place. So thank you for coming on. Looking forward to this, and I'll be seeing you soon along the way.
Absolutely. Thanks, Jay.
Thanks, everybody. Y'all have a very safe weekend. Bye.